Alright, welcome everybody. Here it is, Hidden Cup Free has arrived and the qualifiers will begin tomorrow. Even though it actually says on the banner it's going to be 17th of February start, but it's going to be 19th of February when we are going to be starting. It's going to be a big Age of Empires 2 1v1 tournament hosted by T90 Official. Thanks for Microsoft for adding the money to it, and I think T90 might have also invested some of his own funds into this one. But the overall prize pool is going to be around $50,000, so it's a fairly big event. And in this video, I'm going to make my predictions on this event, starting with the qualifiers. As you can see, it is going to be 32 players fighting for 8 spots to qualify in the main event. I already have displayed my predictions over here, so you can just take a look at that on my predicted scores, but I will go through each and every match one by one and kind of say what I predict for those. So let's start off with the first round. The first round is going to be best of 5, while the second round is going to be a best of 7 on special Hidden Cup 2 maps. Some of them are more conventional maps, some of them are fairly Hidden Cup specific, so there is going to be a decent variety in the maps as well. Starting off in round 1, it is going to be Nikov versus Ink, the Argentinian player against the North American player over here. Ink has played an awful lot of games himself in Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, so has almost 700 games played as I am recording this right now. But Nikov has been on fire in recent times. Right now, Nikov is second on the leaderboard in Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition 1v1 ratings. He has been exceptional in tournaments in recent times and the past as well, and I think this is just gonna be a clean 3-0 here for Nikov. Nikov is an exceptional player. Ink is not a bad player, but Nikov is just one of the best players in the world right now. In fact, I'm fairly certain Nikov is gonna progress not only into the main event, but also he is probably gonna be performing some decent moves within the main event itself. Following up by Stark versus Daniel. Stark versus Daniel is one of the more balanced matchups. As you can see, seed 16 versus seed 17 here. Stark has been quite decent in the Fair Civs Cup. Did play a 3-0 versus Cloud, but lost to 0-3 to Leary in the Fair Civs Cup. Meanwhile, for Daniel, he also did play in the NAC free qualifiers, but he ultimately lost to Lan, who was the qualifier for the event. So Daniel did play quite well. He also did participate in the Fair Civs Cup as well, but ultimately lost to Hera in the second round. So I would say this is a fairly balanced matchup and very hard to predict for me. I would say whoever has the better day, whoever might have some better maps, for example, so very minor things can decide this engagement over here in between the two. I said that Stark is the one I think it's going to be more probable to win, but it's really like a 55 to 45% ratio, so this is definitely open for Daniel, and this is probably going to be one of the closest matchups that I anticipate we will have in the first round. Lan versus Cloud is gonna be the next one. Lan, the player who did qualify for NAC free, so he did win all of the brackets over there, beating Daniel. He beat Fire as well. He beat Viles. That's also very important. So in the NAC free qualifiers, 5-2 versus Viles is a very strong showing here from Lan. He has improved a lot with Definitive Edition, and for that reason, I think that this is gonna be a 3-0 sweep of Cloud. Cloud is not a bad player, but he is not a top tier Age of Empires 1v1 player, a decent Taiwanese player, but he is probably not going to be able to beat Lan over here, especially after losing 3-0 to Stark in Fair Civs Cup and 4-2 to Vodka L, who is going to be a participant in the Hidden Cup free matchups as well. So I think this is going to be a clean sweep here for Lan. Followed up by Winchester versus FedEx. Now this is one of the trickier ones for me to predict. First of all, Winchester is seed number 9, however, he has lost 3-2 against Sito in the Fair Civs Cup, who is seed number 28. As you can see, he's going to be a few rows down below. We'll talk about him as well. So I'm not sure about how well Winchester is going to perform. He's very hard to predict always, has some out-of-the-box strategies, so I'm actually hyped to see Winchester playing in this one. FedEx is even more unknown to me, to be honest. I have never actually seen FedEx play in any kind of game or tournament. So for this one, I do believe that Winchester is going to take this 3-1, but this is mainly based on Definitive Edition ratings here and not necessarily on previous tournament performance. But I feel like FedEx will have a decent chance of beating Winchester, especially if Winchester underperforms. Like I said, he did lose against Sito in the Fair Civs Cup, so the possibility for FedEx to win this one is there, even though I still believe that Winchester is going to be the one who moves on to the next round. Fire versus Vodka L, this is, again, I feel like a bit one-sided. Fire has been one of the best players in Definitive Edition, one of the highest rated right now, 6 overall in the leaderboard. 80% win rate is quite decent. He has beaten 4-0 at NAC3 qualifiers against Pike, and barely lost against Lan in the NAC3 qualifiers 4-3, so he almost was there or had a chance to get to the NAC3 main event himself. Vodka had some decent performances here. He did play in the qualifiers for NAC3, but ultimately lost in the second round to Dogao for a 4-1 defeat. And that makes me believe that even though Vodka L might have flashes, might have some good moments, especially if the circumstances are appropriate, I still believe that Fire is going to be the one who dominates this matchup. I do anticipate Vodka L to maybe win one game, but this could go down to 3-0 as well, depending on how the maps shape out, how good day Fire is having and how good day Vodka is having. As I turn the pages on my fancy sheets of papers, because I have like loads of notes that I have made for this video specifically, as we will have the next one, Barls versus Slam. Very interesting matchup. Neither of these players are super active in tournament games. Slam, member of Team Secret, but in recent times he wasn't really participating in any major tournament. For Barls, kind of same thing applies. He didn't participate in a lot of games, so it's very hard to predict, to be honest. And I do believe that this is one of the more open matchups. Overall, I think that Slam is actually a better player than Barls. And there is a reason why Slam is a member of Team Secret. So I would say I'm going to give this to Slam. But this is definitely open for Barls. Right now, in terms of leaderboard position, Barls is 22nd on the leaderboard. And for Slam, where's Slam at? I'm looking at the spreadsheet over here. I'm blind. Okay, Slam is 16th. So it's super close, I would say. Even though I believe that, especially if the games drag super long, I have a feeling that Slam will come out of the situations a bit better. Viles versus Sito, this is a rough one to predict. Sito did surprise everybody by beating Winchester in the Fair Civs Cup, but ultimately lost 3-0 to Nikov in the next round. Meanwhile, for Viles, this is a very interesting one. He's lost 3-0 to Doubt in the Fair Civs Cup, but before that, he has beaten Winchester 4-1 in NAC3 qualifiers. He has beaten Dogao 4-2 in NAC3 qualifiers and lost 5-2 to Lan. Ultimately was there at NAC3 main event as he was replacing Vivi and ended up being the 7th out of the 9 participants in the group stage. So I would say that Vilas is having a fairly decent shape. He's not amongst the closest of all pros, I would say. So he's not top 5 right now, maybe not even top 8 if he has a bad day, but he's around top 10, especially if he has a good day. So I would say Vilas still has a very good position right now in Definitive Edition, and I definitely believe that he could advance a lot in this event as well, and this will probably be just a clean sweep for him. Maybe Sito can grab one game, but I believe that if Vilas plays his best, Sito doesn't really have a lot of chances to win this series. Project Belgium versus Rubenstock, now one of the most hyped matchups over here, and you can see my prediction, which might actually be a bit surprising, especially if we talk about these two players like a year ago, for example. A year ago, I would have said that this is an easy win for Rubenstock. Now, not so much. Project Belgium has improved an awful lot with Definitive Edition, mainly because he played an awful lot of games as well. He has almost 600 games on his record. Right now, number 24 on the leaderboard in Definitive Edition, and in Fair Civs Cup, he actually beaten Say My Name, who is considered a fairly good Vietnamese player, 3-0, and also barely lost to Viper in Fair Civs Cup. That was brutal. I did not see that series myself, but I did hear that Project Belgium was performing very well against the Viper, and when you perform well against the Viper, you will have great chances. Rubenstock, it's kind of hard to predict how he's going to perform. He doesn't have a lot of games on his record in Definitive Edition, but in Fair Civs Cup, he has beaten Jibatong 3-1, then lost 3-2 against Tato. So I definitely think that this is a very open matchup. Could go down to every bit of minor detail. I think probably this is going to be the most balanced of all matchups here, and probably the most hyped up ones as well. I'm going to pick Belgium to advance in this one, but this is really just because he played so well against Viper. But Ruben Stock has every bit of a chance to advance as well here. Dowd versus Hoang, one of the more intriguing matchups in this matchup as well. 3-1 is my prediction for Dowd. This is a very tricky one. Like, when I'm recording this, it has just been 3 or 4 hours ago when I casted a bunch of Hoang games, and Hoang just smashed through a lot of people. He has some very, very out-of-the-box strategies, surprising, weird, something that can really confuse its opponents. So he could definitely surprise Dowd. However, Dowd has played exceptionally well with Definitive Edition release. Just to point out, for Fairsafe Cup, he has beaten Viles 3-0, and also he lost 4-3 against the Viper. Viper specifically said that the toughest matchup in Fairsafe Cup for him was Dowd, so Dowd is really in a good shape right now. Also, did have the 8th spot out of the 9 contestants in the NAC3 group stage. So Dowd himself performed quite well in the previous events, is in a very good shape. Honestly, Hoang could surprise him in 1 or 2 games, but I feel like once we get into later stages of the game where Hoang's early aggressiveness might not work that well, when you really have to manage a lot of things simultaneously, the tournament experience might actually be favoring Dowd over here. But let's not forget, Hoang is one of the most experienced Definitive Edition players as well. Just to put that into contrast, we have 1,325 games played by Hoang. That is like more than 6 other participants combined in these qualifiers. So a lot of games, awful lot of games played for Hoang, and his early aggressiveness is something that is kind of legendary among AoE2 scene. T90 himself said that he's super hyped for Dowd versus Hoang. If Dowd doesn't pay a lot of attention, Hoang could surprise him quite a bit over here. I still believe, though, that, like I said, if we go to later stages of the game, I'm fairly certain Dowd is going to be able to edge it out, and he has been performing quite well, so I do believe, even though Hoang will have moments in this series, Dowd's tournament experience, overall game experience, will prevail in this matchup. Team versus AJ, that's a very interesting one as well. 15 versus 18 seed. Team has been quite good in ECL, but kind of disappeared after it, to be honest. So, haven't really seen how well Team plays in Definitive Edition. I only saw 1 game from him in which he got beaten by John Slow and Black Forest, so I don't think that's representative of his skill. Angelina Jolie, it's a weird situation with him as well. Of course, AJ is a fairly decent player, but not among the best of the best, so it's going to be interesting to take a look at. I have seen some Project Belgium versus AJ games today, and Belgium did win those. I'm not saying AJ does have very little chance, but I feel like Tim is definitely favored in this matchup. I'm going to give this 3-1 for Tim. If AJ prepares well, Tim has a bad day, Tim has some bad decisions in the games, maybe AJ can grab this victory, but it's either going to be super close, AJ winning it, or it's going to be Tim winning 3-1 or something like that. So I'm saying that Tim is probably the one that is favored in this matchup. Bacti versus Paladin, Vietnamese versus a Chinese player. Both players do have a lot of games on their record, but neither of them did participate in either Fairsafe Cup or NAC3, so they haven't been active in Definitive Edition tournaments so far, so they are kind of like a dark horse to me. Not sure what to predict from them. For now, I'm gonna stick with Bacti. Bacti has a bit more tournament experience. He's one of the best Vietnamese players out there. Paladin is not a bad player, but he mainly plays team games, and he doesn't have a lot of experience in 1v1 tournaments. Still, I believe that Paladin has a chance to grab at least 1 or 2 games in this one, but I think the favored one in this matchup is gonna be Bacti. Lix versus Zupi, very interesting as well. There is some similarities in between the two people here. So both of them are from a country in which they are not among the best, but in teams they are extremely valuable members. So like Lix is known as one of the best teammates there for Mr. Yo. If there's a team China, Yo, Vivi, and Lix are probably the 3 best players out there. But if I had to rank Chinese players, Lix would probably just be the 3rd best behind Mr. Yo and the Fat Dragon. Kind of same applies for Zupi. He's exceptionally good in team games alongside Max, Ruben Stock, Viles, Pike, maybe even Yupa as well in Suomi. However, in 1v1s, haven't seen much of him, especially in the recent times. So, did not participate in FCC or NAC3. And this is going to be one of the more open matchups, I do believe. I'm fairly certain Lix is gonna get some support here from other Chinese players like Yo, Vivi, and so. Meanwhile, Zupi is gonna get support from Suomi. So I think this is a fairly open matchup. I'm gonna say I give a slight advantage here to Lix, but Zupi has all the tools he needs to win this one. If he has a good day, he could turn this around. Next up, it's Dogao versus Genji. It's a very interesting one. Dogao, you're just hearing the papers I'm screwing around with. So Dogao versus Genji. Genji right now is like a top 3 player in team games. So he's a decent team game player, not bad with 1v1s either. Right now he is 50th on the leaderboard. The problem is that he's facing Dogao, who is 12th at the leaderboard when I'm recording this, but Dogao has been on fire in recent times as well. Has played in First Civs Cup, for example. Namely, he has beaten John Slow 3-2, but you gotta point out that he has taken 1 game of an admin loss, and one of them was Arena. So in the end, let's be honest, that could have been much, much smoother for him. Lost to MBL though, 3-1 in First Civs Cup as well, but progressed quite well in the NAC free qualifiers, ultimately losing to Vilas 4-2. Still, I believe that Dogao is, or Dogao has definitely improved with Definitive Edition. And for this reason, I think this is going to be a fairly fairly even. What? How would this be fairly even? I want to say that this is going to be a fairly smooth victory here for Dogao. Seed number 3 against seed number 30. 3-0 is what I'm predicting. Maybe if the circumstances are appropriate, Genji can take 1 game, but I feel like Dogao is a top player. Genji is a decent intermediate level player, especially in team games. But in 1v1s, I think he needs to improve to be able to beat Dogao. Kaswa versus Nili, one of the matchups I'm most waiting for. And this made me think a lot. So to make this prediction, I had to think like 20-25 minutes what to say on this one. Now, in terms of in-game skill, I would say that they are fairly even. In fact, like in one of Nili's streams, I did see Nili versus Kaswa, and I think Nili lost. But I'm gonna say that even though Kaswa is seed number 14, Nili seed number 19, I'm gonna give this 3-1 to Nili, and I do have my reasons for it. The main reason behind this is because, number 1, Nili is getting some coaching from Team Secret members, so he's gonna improve quite a bit. And number 2 is preparation. Nili is one of the players that prepares the most for his tournaments. Every time he arrives at the tournament, he does have a very specific plan on what he wants to do. He prepares for maps, he prepares for opponents, he analyzes his own recordings. And for this reason, I think preparation is going to be heavily on his side, even though I think in his better days, Kaswa might be slightly better in terms of micromanagement and macromanagement aspects of the game. But thanks to the preparation, thanks to the support from the other secret members, I think Nili will be able to beat Kaswa here. 3-1, maybe 3-2 for Kaswa, but I am predicting Nili to advance in the next one. Meanwhile, following this up, it's gonna be ACCM versus Jibatong. Interesting one. ACCM is one of the top Vietnamese players right now, seed number 6. Jibatong, 27th, a decent Chinese player who has started to team up with Vivi more and more in recent times. I am fairly certain he's gonna get some coaching, some help from the Fat Dragon himself, but I still believe that ACCM is a better player overall compared to Jibatong. So I'm saying that it's going to be 3-1 for ACCM. Jibatong will have his moments, I am fairly certain. Will probably take at least 1 game, maybe even 2. But I'm saying ACCM is grabbing this one. Seimanim versus Noisik is the final matchup of the first round. Noisik is a player I never actually have seen playing. He is right now 50th on the leaderboard. With 123 games played and 60% win rate. He hasn't been very active in tournaments, so I'm not sure what to think about him, but he's 22nd on the seeding, so he's fairly highly seeded, by the way, as he's going to be facing Seimanim. Seimanim has a lot of tournament experience. He's one of the better Vietnamese players. We'll get a lot of coaching and help as well from other Vietnamese players like Bakhti and ACCM, I'm fairly certain. So I am picking Seimanim here. If circumstances are appropriate, Noisik is going to be able to grab at least 1 game, I believe, but a 3-0 could also happen here in this one. As we close out the first round and we go to the second one, which is going to be a round of best of 5s. Starting off with Nikov versus Stark. This is where the run of Stark ends, kind of for similar reasons that why Nikov is just going to destroy Ink in my predictions. And it is because I do believe that Nikov is playing so high level right now. He's really, really sharp in these days. And even though Stark will probably have his moments, Stark is a decent player as well, but Nikov is just playing so well right now. There is a reason why he's #1 seed, and I think that this could go down to 4-1, maybe even 4-0. But Nikov is just playing so well today that, or not just today, but overall these times, that it's gonna be insanely hard for Stark to beat him, if borderline impossible. Lan versus Winchester, an interesting matchup over here. Honestly, like I said, after Winchester has lost to Sito, this could be a very interesting matchup because it could be a 4-0 overall to Lan. Lan has been on fire in the recent times. He has performed quite well when qualifying to NAC3, even though his performance over there wasn't exceptional. But the fact that he already managed to qualify over there is something to point out here. And he has definitely gotten better with the arrival of Definitive Edition. And for this reason, I believe he's going to be able to prevail over Winchester here. Winchester, if he plays well and if he has, let's say, good circumstances as well, Winchester will be able to grab one game, maybe even two. But I feel like, yet again, somewhat comparable to Stark versus Nikov, it's gonna be insanely hard for Winchester to take this series against Lan, despite the fact that Lan is seed #8 and Winchester is seed #9. After Winchester has lost to Sito in Faircivs Cup, I am fairly certain that this is not gonna be that challenging for Lan. Of course, Winchester will try everything, and he's always one of the players that can surprise the opponent. But I feel like Lan is the clear favorite in this matchup. Next up, Fire versus Slam. Oh boy. Probably one of the best matches in the second round. This was extremely hard to predict as well. Fire did perform very well against Slam in the NAC3 qualifiers. I pick Fire over Slam for the free, mainly because I feel like Fire, I think, has more games as well on his account. Yep, kind of. So Fire might have gotten a bit more Definitive Edition experience here. Right now, Fire is, I think, 6th on the leaderboard overall. So he's fairly high rated. 80% win rate is quite impressive as well, although that is somewhat influenced by the time zones he's also playing in. But Slam is also a fairly decent player. This is going to be a close series to my predictions. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Slam winning it, but I feel like Fire has a slight edge in this matchup. Villas versus Project Belgium, another amazing matchup here. After Belgium went head-on against Viper, this is gonna be tough for Villas, I do believe. I'm still believing that Villas, with the tournament experience he has, with the support of the Suomi players, I am fairly certain he's gonna be able to beat Project Belgium, mainly because Villas is also in very good shape here. But this is gonna be very, very tough. I think what this could go down for is potentially long games and overall long series. A best of 7 can drag out for 3.5, 4 hours. And I'm not sure how much experience Project Belgium does have in playing that long series. Meanwhile, Villas does have a lot of tournament experience, does have a lot of stamina for super long series. And if Belgium loses strengths by the end of the series, then Villas will be able to take it. Still an open matchup, but because of the tournament experience here, I would say that Villas is going to be the favorite to win this one. Doubt versus Team. This is an interesting one. Like I said, Team, we haven't seen much from him in previous times. It's going to be interesting to see how he can perform, but Doubt has been on fire in recent times, and I'm going to predict 4-1 over here. This is very hard to predict, like I said, because I didn't really see Team playing in recent times. But I feel like Doubt is going to have the advantage in this one. If Team prepares well, practices a lot, might be able to take 2, maybe even 3 games from Doubt. But turning this around and winning it would actually surprised me quite a bit from Tim. Still, he has the chance to win this one, but I feel like Doubt is the clear favorite to win this. Bacti versus Lix, 4-2 is my prediction. Seed #7 against seed #10. For the similar reasons that I have picked Bacti over Paladin, I'm gonna say the same thing over here as well. Lix is a decent player, but Bacti is an exceptional 1v1 player as well. If you remember, in NAC2, he also qualified, just visa issues kind of prevented him to participate. So I would say Bacti is one of the top 1v1 players, a very underrated player, so people sometimes forget about him when making player lists, but Bacti is a quite decent 1v1 player, and for that reason, I'm picking him over Lixin in this one. Dogao versus Nili. If I'm not mistaken, Nili said that this is the matchup he's most afraid of, and for a reason. Dogao is on fire. I'm fairly certain Nili will have his moments, and Nili will prepare very well for this matchup, but I think skill is on the side of Dogao over here. So I'm picking Dogao to win 4-1 over Nili here. As we go to the final matchup over here, the Vietnamese Showdown, ACCM versus Say My Name. The players who usually play in the same team in basically any kind of event they are participating in as a team. This is going to be super close. I think the individual skills of the players are fairly comparable to each other, and for that reason I do believe this is going to be a close one. I think ACCM might have a slight advantage, but this could go down to very, very minor details in the game. ACCM is the one I picked for the winner 4-3, as he's going to be the final player who advances to the main event. That means that my list of qualifiers for this one is going to be Nikov, Lan, Fire, Viles, Daut, Bakhti, Dogao, and ACCM. Interestingly, as you can see, this is basically the top 8 of the seeds. I promise you I did not make this list so that all the top seeds will advance. It's just because this is what seems realistic, and this is, if this happens, it's a big shout out to the ones who made the rankings and made the seeding, because they did a very, very good job at estimating the skills of these players. But this is my predictions for Hidden Cup 3, a big Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition event. Yet again, thanks for T90 for hosting this and Microsoft for sponsoring this. I will be covering most of the qualifiers. I hopefully can cover all games. And same for the main event. There is my Twitch on the screen as well, and of course I will put it in the description as well. Hopefully you have enjoyed this one. If you have any opinions on anything I said, you agree with what I said, you disagree with what I said, you have a different point of view on one of the matchups, feel free to share it to me in the comments down below. And otherwise, hopefully we will meet again. Well, if you take a look at my channel, you might actually bump into one of my Hidden Cup 3 casts. So have a nice day, everybody, and thanks for listening to this little podcast of my Hidden Cup 3 predictions.